Here we are back with the brand new image. So maybe you're ready for more. Here's some things we can try doing. Another popular thing to ask is, I want to make a star. I'm going to click here, the create a new layer. There's my blank layer. So the way that I get the stars started, I could probably go in and look for some sort of custom shape that looks like a star. You could try different things up here, and as you can see, Photoshop gives you flowery things, lightning bolts, things you could build up. Go up here to the elliptical marquee tool. I click and I drag that elliptical marquee. I make these things a little bit bigger, so I'm going to click and make a big marquee, and you can see there's the dancing ants. I'm going to change my foreground color to white. So I'm going to go to my fill paint bucket tool, and I'm going to hover over that marquee tool and click it, and I've got the white. And then I want to get rid of the dancing ants because I'm done with my selection. So I'm going to go up to select, deselect, or Command D on the Mac or Control D on your PC. Deselect that. And then I'm simply going to go and I'm going to duplicate this layer here. Duplicate that. So I've got another one made. If I hit Command T or Control T, that opens up the free transform. I'm just going to review where that is in the menu under Edit. And I go down to transform. In this case, I'm looking at rotate. But the Command T gives you most of those things. I'm going to rotate that. If I hold the Shift key down, that will lock that into a horizontal location. And I'm done with those things. Oh, I'm going to apply that. I'm going to apply that transform, and there you go. So that's the start of my star. These are two separate layers. I no longer need those as two separate layers unless I wanted to keep copying and pasting and rotating. I'm going to Shift select, right click, and merge those layers together. So now they're all merged and they're one layer. I'm going to make a copy of this layer. I'm going to turn the eyeball off of that one. I'm going to click on the layer below it here. And go down to the blur. I'm going to select motion blur. So the motion blur, that's way too much motion blur on that. So I'm going to scale that motion blur down a little. Now the cool thing about the motion blur is you can change the angle. I need to change the angle of this thing to make that look. And you can see already as I'm changing the angle of the motion blur, this is looking more and more star-like. And then I'm going to turn my layer back on here. And there's the star without the motion blur. So maybe on this one, what I might try throwing on is a Gaussian blur, a secondary blur on this one. So I'm going to go up here. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur. It's not quite enough for what I'm looking for, so I'm just going to jack that up maybe to around 2. There you go. That looks pretty subtle. Alright, so I put the Gaussian blur on this, and then I'm just going to adjust the opacity slightly so that kind of morphs into the background a little bit more. And it's up to around 30. And that's got the amount of subtlety I'm looking for. Shift select those, right click, merge layers together. And that's the start of my star. Make yourselves a new layer here. Fill that in. Command D or Control D to deselect that, and now I've got that one right there. I'm going to copy that layer. And then I'm going to go Command T. And I'm going to rotate that layer into an X position. Hit Enter to apply that.
Forward.
Maybe adjust the opacity of those guys, and that's looking pretty good. So now I'm going to go Shift select that down there, Control click, merge those layers, and now I have my star built to position where I want it. I'm going to make a copy of that star to proportionally change that and make it the size I want. That's looking pretty symmetrical, so I'm going to go off to the side here. I'm going to rotate the star. On a side note, if I'm using the free transform tool, I can also skew the image. On the Mac, I'm going to hold the Command key down. On the PC, it would be the Control key. So Command or Control, grab the node, and then you can see that I can skew it and change the perspective of the star. I'm actually liking that a little bit better than it was before. Hit return, and now I've got a star in there. It's not looking like the best star, but you know, you get the idea. Okay, so here I've got the star in place. So by playing around with some of these blending modes, I found out that vivid light actually gets rid of the yellow and sort of blends the star in a little bit better. I'm also going to lower that opacity ever so slightly, and let's play around with the positioning. Okay, so I've got 2 stars. I think that's more than enough. This isn't looking like the greatest creation on Earth, but it's giving you an idea about how to do some essential things to create different images if you're asked to make some cover art or something related to a meme or to get the word out about some event. So I'm going to go down to the shape layer here. What I need to do with the shape layer before I place filters on them, and that's what I'm going to try doing, is I need to rasterize it. So I'm going to right click on the image. And so basically, remember right here, just to show you that again, right click on the shape layer, rasterize it. And then I'm going to have some fun playing around with some filters to see if I can make this image look a little more interesting. So I'm going to go into the filter gallery. You could go through, I mean, there's a ton of different effects you can apply to the layers in Photoshop. Some look great, some look a bit cheesy. Film grain, I think, always looks pretty decent. If you're looking to make the image look a little grittier, you can adjust the intensity, play around with it. So there's the film grain on that layer. If I'm going for more of a film grain, if I want to roughen that up a little bit more, if I like the film grain, kind of grittier look to something, you've also got the noise. So you can actually go add noise filter. You can change it to uniform, Gaussian. Or change the amount of noise. That's looking pretty intense, but I'll add a little more noise than I want to. But that's looking pretty good, because then I can always go in to the filter and just adjust that noise with a Gaussian or a lens blur. So I'm going to go to the Gaussian blur, not quite this much. And then you can see I've added a little noise to that. That's looking a little more interesting, I think. I'm not so sure, but a lot of this working in these programs is trial and error, just getting used to your style and what you like to do. I'm going to add a little noise to the background image. I'm going to shift select the gradient layer in the background, blue layer, right click. I'm going to merge those layers together. I'm going to go up to the noise, and I'm going to add some noise just to see if I can get things matching up and kind of some synergy between the layers and looking a little bit better. So let's go add noise. Okay, it looks like this noise defaults to like 44.79%, 45%. That's looking way too much. If I decrease that to almost like between 5 and 10, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, this is not looking like my finest day here, to be quite honest, but hopefully you're appreciating the tutorial for what it's worth. It's looking pretty cheesy, and these stars are just adding to the fromage. Anytime there's too much fromage happening, I just slap on more and more, and the filters help just amp up the cheese factor. So, oh, fresco, okay. Oh my gosh, let's back that up. Okay, so I figured out, I've given some great thought what to do with these stars that are hurting me inside because they look so bad. Anytime something starts looking a little bit, that looks pretty bad, I just slap on a blur. So let's just try a motion blur. See if we can, there you go. It's almost disappeared. I changed the blending mode to overlay. I'm thinking that's looking probably the most promising in this case. So I'm going to turn this eyeball off and on. There's the other star. I'm going to actually make this one a bit bigger. Throw an overlay on that one. Let's change these and make them look like lens flares. So go up to the blur. Now for some jokes, let's try a lens blur. Let's not. Okay, go up to the filters for jokes. Let's go try a radial blur. I don't know. Let's go okay. See what happens. Okay, good. Okay, so just playing around there. Try to radial blur. There you go. They're gone. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna start crying. So I'm thinking about focal point now, and you can see a lot of it is just playing around, going with some intuition here. I just tried radial blur. I'm liking the curve, the subtle curve. So now I'm gonna go and I'm gonna make a copy of that. Okay. I'm gonna drag that copy over to another point in space, to the other side of that, thinking of uniformity and balance. And I'm going to flip this layer so that it will be almost like the curve. So the way you flip something is you go to Edit, Transform, and oh, look at that. I can flip it vertically or horizontally. In this case, I'm going to flip it horizontally. And there you go. I've got that curve. And now look at that. Just from playing around with, I said for some jokes, let's try radial blur in it. Look at that. And that's often what happens in these programs. You kind of get lost in them. You play around. You make a really cheesy looking star. And you're like, ugh, what could I possibly do with that? And then there you go. Now you've got something visually actually interesting happening. So through my struggles, I have just shown you that a lot of it is this trial and error. So I'm going to move the other star over here. This, what was a star, is now almost like a lens flare. I'm going to Command T that. I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to scale that up a little. And see if I can put like a little subtle flash in the center here to really heighten that focal point. So now look at this. I've got this curve here, got this curve on this side, and I've got what used to be a star in the middle, creating some focal point and some visual interest. Just out of curiosity, if I turn these all off, you can see that looks pretty plain. I turn them on, and I got some more. I got the bling I was looking for, and it's not too bad. I'm still troubled by this background, these diamonds. I am really not liking those. I don't know, just saying. So let me see if there's anything possibly I could do with those. So let me try going down to effects. I am just playing around here, exploring things that I know kind of sometimes make things look good, or as you've watched, make things look pretty bad. Let's try a stroke because we demoed that. Look at that. Let's throw the stroke on there. That's looking pretty a bad version of Tron. I'm gonna go try Inner Shadow. Okay, that's like less bad version of Tron. That's actually making something look a little more 3D. I don't like the color, so I'm going to click on that. And as I told you before, I'm sticking with a monochromatic blue. That just kind of happened as I was playing around. So if I make that a little more blue rather than black, it might make it look like it's part of things a little bit better. Adjust that opacity a little more. And there you go. Inner Shadow's not looking too bad. Click that off. Let's try some Inner Glow. Again, let's click the color. Let's try taking things back to the monochromatic bluish color scheme. We can also try a different blending mode. Let's try Multiply. Let's try Lighten. Soft Light. Soft Light does nothing. Let's try Overlay. While I was on pause, I took a look at Vivid Light. I thought Vivid Light really punches that up. So in this case, Vivid Light's looking pretty good. So look, I can also add noise here to make it blend in. So that because the background's got a bit of noise, right in here, you see that they've actually put in noise there. So I'm going to add a little bit of noise to that, and that's looking better. But the nice thing about the layer styles, it throws everything in this effects. I can turn the eyeball off, and I can see the before and the after. Maybe I like it, maybe I don't. And because I kept the shape down here intact, I can still now go back to it. There it's before everything, there it's after everything. Okay, so I'm going to still see, I'm still not happy with these kind of diamondy things in the background here. So I'm going to make a copy of that. Now I'm going to try throwing on another filter. And because, I don't know, the radial blur looks so cool, let's see what happens if I throw the same radial blur on those. Okay, so I'm not giving up hope on the radial blur. I'm going to go back to the blur, back to the radial blur here. Just decrease the amount of the spin. And let's see. That's looking a little better, but still that's a lot of blur on it. So again, not giving up hope on the radial blur. Try that. Let's decrease that amount to, let's say, 4 or 5. I feel like 5 is the way to go. There you go. That's ever so subtle. Maybe I just didn't like anything I did, so I just made everything super, look like you're underwater in murky water or something. So that's the way that went. I do find that the text is getting lost, so maybe I need to go back to the opacity. I need to pull that opacity back up to 100. Maybe the fill color needs to change, so I'm going to go back here to the text layer. Instead of that just being straight black, maybe I make the fill more of a blue. Oh, that's good. Look at that. Just by clicking that. And there you go. I'm really sticking with that blue monochromatic color scheme, as I said. I could, just out of curiosity, make this a copy of this. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to see if a complementary color would be better rather than the blue color for the branding. Let's go and down to the orange or the red area and let's see if something will work. That yellow is definitely making things stand out. So I think yellow is my best bet right now to try if I'm thinking of some complementary color to blue. Let's turn the eyeball off. There's the blue, there's the yellow. You know what I'm seeing? I'm seeing the fact that I could actually maybe turn this into a GIF animation to grab somebody's attention. As I'm clicking this eyeball off and on, I'm feeling like that looks like a blinking light. So I'm feeling pretty positive about that. If I want to edit the effect and I want to edit that stroke, I'm going to click on open and I double click the stroke. And now I feel like I should change this color something more related to the yellow. There you go. You see what happened there? Now that's really punching that up a little bit. So I'm going to go for that. So now the yellow lettering has a yellow stroke on it and the blue lettering has a blue stroke on it, and I'm actually feeling like this is going places. So there you go. So if you're just, show me how to make a quick design, go through some, play around with some quick filters to make some funky background. Try some letter variation. There you go. And now you could just go File, Save As, save that from a Photoshop file to a JPEG or a PNG file, and you're good to go. You're good to put that on the internet just as a flat image. But I think in the world of branding and marketing and all that, any bling we can add to things to get people's attention, I think really amps things up. So watch the next tutorial that I'm going to show you on how to make a quick GIF animation in 5 minutes.